interest-bearing note, or maybe we'll do it nominal. That's a little more complicated than view interest-bearing. There was one of those on your Chapter 6 quiz anyway, I think. We'll do an example of that. I'm over on about page 359, where it says notes receivable. So let's hit a few of these things. There's plenty in this chapter that we can do. Predictable. Get it. It's your job. Got it right. You emailed me. Was it you emailed me?
Yeah.
And I never got back to you. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I got it. I was feeling like crap. I thought I'd get back to you. Did you figure it out?
I mean, I think what I sent was correct. So.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll look at it. Actually, quiz 6 wasn't it? Number. I didn't have it. Quiz 6, number what? The last one.
6.
Which is number 6?
Number 6.
I got 33,360.
I don't have where I worked it, but
Okay. You had to take the present value factor and then multiply it times 1.06 to bring it up. Instead of discounting, you got to
there was a lump sum once, and then
I don't think that would do it. I think what you have to do is get a factor that's the correct factor, and you had a annuity due factor, and you wanted an ordinary factor. Is that what it was, or the other way around?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, and you needed to take the factor times 1.06 to bring it to the other factor. That's the trick. Yeah.
Thanks.
Or go down one more period and subtract 1.0 from it. Does exactly the same thing. So take a look at that. Anyway, okay. So let's try a note. Let's say that we sell some product to somebody, and they give us a note receivable, but we're not going to charge them any interest. Okay. So we give them, let's say it's 2 years to pay us. Okay. Give this a shot. Let's say it's a $100,000 note. That's our list price on the product we're selling them, right? I'm an equipment dealer, I'm selling a piece of equipment maybe, okay? Forklift or something. Sell them a $100,000 piece of equipment. I only charge them $100,000. I charge the list price. They're going to pay the list price. Are they really paying the list price? Of course not. They're going to pay me interest, okay? And let's make it be a 2-year note, okay? 2 years. Okay, and then what we do is we say, all right, fine, it's 2 years, and we think there really should be interest here. Okay, so what we do is we would go out and we would estimate what their interest rate should be. What would be the appropriate interest rate for these folks, which would be at least as big as the interest rate we pay. Does that make sense? Okay, but let's say on this note, in fact, let's not make it non-interest bearing. Let's make it a 2% rate. Okay, 2% is the interest rate. But you think really in the market these people should be paying 10%, okay? Let's say it's 10%. Okay, let's value the note and therefore value this sale, okay? Give this thing a shot. How would you value this note? Every debt instrument, and therefore the asset on the other side, is what? Interest payments and principal at the end, am I right? Everybody agree on that? Or maybe interest and principal as you go, right? But yeah, it's some interest and some principal, isn't it? Okay? So what would you say a certain amount at the end is? It's the future value of a lump sum, isn't it? On a bond, on a note, doesn't matter. Okay? And what's the interest? It's always the same amount of interest every period. We're assuming that it's the same interest rate the whole way through. That's an annuity payment. Everybody agree? Okay, so on this note, just like it was a bond, you could look at this thing and say, okay, what's going to be paid off 2 years from now? We can assume annual if it doesn't say interest is compounded some other way. And if it's just a non-interest bearing note, right, or a nominal interest note, it probably is just annual interest. Okay? So when is it going to be paid off? 2 years from now. So that $100,000 is a future value 2 periods from now, isn't it? It is. And then what's the interest going to be? $100,000 times 2% is how much, everybody? $2,000. How many times is the interest? It's not really, well, it is gonna be paid, I take it back, they're gonna pay you the interest, right? And let's say they're gonna pay you the 2% interest every year, make our life easy. Okay, they're gonna pay the 2% interest every year. So how's that gonna work? That 2% interest every year, $2,000, they're gonna pay you the $100,000, right? Every year, at the end of each year. What would you say that is? Let's see, there's gonna be how many payments? 2 times 2 payments. How much is that gonna be? 4,000. So this note's gonna pay off 104,000. Would everybody agree with that? Yeah. What's this thing? 2 payments, 2,000. Assuming the interest rate is 10% the whole time, what the heck is that thing? What kind of a payment is that? 2,000 every time. An annuity payment. Ordinary or due? Interest comes at the end of the period. What do you think it is? Ordinary. Value it. That's all you got to do for this thing. And we're going to record the sale at the true value of the note and record the note at the true value of the note. Oh, so our sale's not really 100,000. It's less than that by the amount of interest. That's it. So you can use these present values in all kinds of situations. So I'm going to credit sales revenue for some amount, and I'm going to debit notes receivable. And what I could do is debit notes receivable for the full 100,000 if I want, and then credit a discount on notes receivable for the amount of the interest. That's one way you could record it, or you could just do the note receivable at the net amount, either way. So what's the value of this puppy, you guys? It's $100,000, right? Times 1 over 1 point, what? 10, if 10% is the interest rate they should be paying. That's the effective or yield, right, rate, right guys? Okay? Raised to the second, because it's 2 years. Look up that factor if you want. I don't know why that pointer is always there. It's not weird in here. Get rid of that. Okay. So what is 1 over 1.10 squared? What's the factor for 2 periods at 10% of it? 82645. Wait, 82645? Yeah. Okay. Each dollar is worth 82.645 cents right now. So what's 100,000 worth? 82645. Yeah, that's if we should be earning 10%, but they're paying us 2, so we've got to value the 2% interest too, right, guys? Which is $4,000 over time. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to do the annuity, right? This was a future value 2 periods from now, right, everybody? This is the present value now. This tool is really handy, isn't it? So what this is an ordinary annuity payment. And what we could do is look up the factor for the interest rate equal 10%. Number of periods is 2, right? What's that factor? 2 periods at 10%. Present value of an ordinary annuity, right? So ordinary is at the end of the period. You guys are getting good at this, aren't you? I beat you up on chapter 6, didn't I? Beat you up a little bit on this test, probably not nearly as bad. By the time of the final, you're going to be nailing this stuff. That's what I want. And when you go on into 212, 313, it's going to be, yeah, I can calculate a present value, leave me alone, right? And they'll quit showing you how I do a present value. You're going to know. And they'll talk about other things that are more complex. Okay, so what is this? I know you're probably not quite there, but I bet you're getting close. What's that factor?
1.7355.
And what is that 26 and a half cents difference between $2 and $1.74, whatever it is? What is that? Interest, right? The $2 isn't worth $2, is it? It's worth $1.73. But I don't get $1 2 times, I get 2,000 2 times, right? So 2,000 times 1.73554 is how much, everybody? What's the interest worth, in other words? 3471. 3471? Yeah. Okay. What's the whole deal worth? Add them up, right? The interest and the principal, what they're worth. By the way, for 0 interest bearing, you don't have to do the interest part, of course, right? It's the same calculation, present value of sum then, huh? So if I gave you one of those, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Simpler. Okay. How much is this? 86,116. Okay. So let's record the sale. How much is the sale? We decided it was worth what? That's it. Right? Okay. That's what happened, right? That's really what the note is, too. If you wanted, you could debit the note for 86,116, but we're going to anyway. What will we do when we do the discount? It's a contra note receivable account. What do we put in there, everybody? 13,884. The difference, yes. Okay, so let's say that was January 1st, year one. Give me the journal entry for December 31st, year one. Okay? Remember, they're paying me, right? Give me the journal entry for December 31st, year two. And the whole thing is due December 31st, year three. This is the kind of crap Rich is going to do. It's fun. It's easy. It's a little amortization table. You know how to amortize a bond, don't you? This is just amortizing a note. Big deal. Okay? How much cash is changing hands? How much interest expense or interest revenue is there? It's a note receivable. It's interest revenue. I think you're going to receive some cash from them every year. How much cash are you going to get? How much is the interest, you guys? This is the bad thing about giving you a take-home exam the next day. You're shot, aren't you? Right? Monday. Okay, come on. What is it? 2,000 of interest. Yeah. So how much cash is going to be debited the first year? 2,000, of course. Right? How much cash is going to be debited the second year? Cash at 2,000. Be careful. How much the third year? That's when the note's due. What are they going to give you? 100,000 principal plus. Oh, wait a minute, it's only 2 years. No wonder you guys are looking at me like I'm nuts. It's the second year. I apologize. I thought I did 3 years for some reason. Okay, the second year is not 2,000. You guys should have said, Keith, stop. How much is the cash the second year? If there's 2,000 interest the second year, there's only 2 years interest. The second year is 2,000, and they're also going to pay the principal the second year, right? So how much is it going to be? 102,000. I apologize. Okay? For some reason I'm doing 3 years interest. Right? It's just 2 years. So there's the 104,000 you're getting back. That's what you expected to receive, right? Okay, what do you need to do? How much was borrowed? How much was borrowed? No, it wasn't 100. You only sold them 86,116. That's all they owe you is 86,116. Your note less that. He has the courage to talk, and then I slam him and say, that's good. Okay, keep doing that when you're at work. Okay? Answer the question. Say, oh, geez, I thought I just explained that. No, it's funny. Okay, that's cool, right? That's good. That's how you treat professionals. I have never had anybody tell me, Keith, you did a really fine, outstanding job. If they did, I'd think they were mentally ill. It doesn't happen. What they say is, yeah, that's fine. You screwed this up, this, and this. Go fix those things. That's how it works. Because they're charging a couple $100 an hour, and you're charging $100 an hour. Got the idea? So how much time do they spend telling you how wonderful you are? 0. Right? The only time they'd ever have an opportunity for that is when you're not billing somebody, and that's when you're sitting having a drink together, and they're sure it's not how long I can tell you how wonderful you are then. That's not going to happen either, right? So don't expect that. It's okay. So anyway, yeah, what do you guys? 86,116 is borrowed. What do you think the interest is for 86,116 when it's 10% interest, effective interest rate? How much interest is it the first year? 8,600 and what is that? 12 about? Rounds to 12. Would you guys agree with that? I think the interest expense or the interest revenue is how much? 86. 1, 2. What do you need to amortize, everybody? What do we need to amortize? The world you guys live in, what do you amortize? Discounts and premiums, there'll never be a premium on a note receivable. It'll only be a discount, so that makes it a lot nice. On a bond, there could be both, right? I got to get rid of that discount. You guys are shaking me up today. How much is that? Seeing as 2,000 was paid in cash. 6,612. Oh, cool. Okay, now what do I have? What did I just do? My carrying value is not 86,116 anymore, is it? Because you just took your discount. See, we have a note receivable of 100,000 here. Everybody agree with that? I have a discount on the notes receivable of 13,884. But what did I just do to my discount? Did I do that backwards? Yeah, receivable, Keith. My brain is not working today. It's ugly in principles, too. Let's try it again. Of course, a note receivable has a debit balance. Come on, Keith. 100,000. Discount on notes receivable, of course, was a credit of 1384. Now what did I do to it? I just debited for 6612. What's left in there?
7272.
Yeah, thank you. 7272? Okay, so now what's my carrying value on this debt? It's 100 less 7272, isn't it? How much is that, everybody? It just went up by the amount of interest, right, that I added to the debt. Because they only paid me $2,000, and the interest should have been $8,600. Everybody got the idea of this thing? Okay, so where are we at? 92,000 or something?
7.8, 92,
Excellent. What's 10% of that? 9273 or something? That sound about right? So what's the journal entry for December 31st, year 2? Debit cash, debit discount on notes receivable. We got to get rid of it. What I want it to be is 7272. And what do I want my credit to interest revenue to be? Well, so I got a rounding error. What would it be? What does it have to be to make that journal entry balance? 9272. So I'm $1 off. Okay? Let's get that rounded. Right? Wait a minute, it didn't balance yet. What's the 100? God, you guys are worse than me today. Yes, the principal, which is called note receivable. Excellent. Okay, there we go. That's exactly right. Ta-da! Now you guys scared me. I want to change this, and I want you to do it another way. Okay? So here we go. I thought that was going to be real quick.
Oh, that's right. I will hit the.
Oh, I'm going to leave it up. I'm just going to put it on do it on 2 pages. I see what you mean. Yeah. There you go. All right. I want room for you to do it another way. Okay. What would you show on your balance sheet at the end of the first year as a note receivable? 100,000, right? Well, at the date of the transaction, what would you show on your balance sheet? 100,000 notes receivable, discount of 13,884, net note receivable is 86,116, right? What would you show at the end of the second year, or at the end of that first year? The end of the second year is all gone. At the end of the first year, where would you be? 100 less the discount of 7272, and you show 92,728 as note receivable, wouldn't you? Okay, here's another way you could have recorded it. On January 1st, year 1, you can debit notes receivable. You see it like this too. You should know this stuff. 86,116, right? And you could credit sales for 86,116. What just happened to that discount, you guys? Well, I merged it with the note receivable, didn't I? Note receivable is really 100,000 less the discount, isn't it? Still is. Okay, do the other journal entries for me. Convert those into this. 1231 year 1 and 1231 year 2. Can you do that? Stuff hopped up a little. Time of the semester where you're all going to have to bring caffeine, I guess. You guys ever have those chocolate-covered coffee beans? When I was in my PhD program at the University of Oregon, they were very popular. Oh my God, a coffee bean with chocolate on it. Have you ever tried one of those? Oh really? It makes your head hurt. This is the woman who eats healthy fruit now. It's because you fried your brain on caffeine. You know what a good cup of coffee will do to you? Right, those energy drinks? Nothing like straight coffee bean crunching into the system. Tastes horrible and knocks the top of your head off, but it does wake you up, doesn't it? Very alert. Bagfuls of them. Yeah, okay. Not all in one sitting, you'd be jumping up and down, yeah. Okay. We need speed. Okay, so what is this going to be? It's this entry again. What would it be? Debit what? You got something written down, guys? Come on. Cash. This one's going to be debit cash for how much? 102. Okay, what do you want to do? You want to have interest revenue still? Is it the same amount of interest revenue? Well, yeah, it's 86,116, but either time times 10%. Isn't your interest revenue here going to be how much? What do we say? There it is, 8612. It's the same thing. What else are you going to debit? Let yourself think about it. What do you have to debit? I no longer have a discount, but what do I have? A note that is recorded at less than its face amount. What's going to be paid at the end? Its face amount. Am I right? How do you get it up to the face amount? Amortize the discount. Where's the discount? It's in notes receivable. In notes receivable, I have 86,116. By the time that they pay me off, I want it to be 100,000. What's the difference? It's the discount, which is the interest revenue I'm going to earn, right? As I earn it, I want to get rid of this thing. So what do? How much debit do I have to note receivable here? Make the journal entry balance, guys. 6,612. You guys staying with me? You look angry, but other than that, are you staying with me? Okay, you add those two together. What's 86,116 plus 6,612? Of course, it's the 92,728 we had at the beginning of the second year, right? Doesn't make any difference how you do your journal entries. It's the same deal. Okay, what are you going to do with this one? What's the interest revenue going to be? Well, you know, interest revenue, 92,718 times 10% was 9,272 with the rounding. Okay, it was, wasn't it? What else do I need? Credit the note receivable. How much? They're paying me $100,000. It's all gone. And debit what? Note receivable for the amortization, which should be 7,272. Although I probably wouldn't record it that way, would I? Why not? Because that's notes receivable and that's notes receivable. I don't need both of them. What could I do instead? Get rid of this and put what here? 92, 728. Yeah, it'd be fine. Where do I end up in any event, you guys? What do I end up with in notes receivable when I'm done, of course? It's 0, isn't it? Right? Everybody agree? Got paid off. Yeah. Okay, that was probably worth doing. Because you guys are working on this a little bit. You've done bonds, right? We did some in the present value stuff here. We're doing notes. And what I want to get across to you is all the same thing. Once you know how to do it, you know how to do it. Who cares if it's a receivable or payable? Ah, cool. I don't have to learn things over and over. I know what I'm doing. Right? What's every asset and every liability worth? When UPS buys a truck, how do they decide how much they're going to pay for it? It's the discounted present value of all the future cash flows it's ever going to generate, which includes all their revenue for delivering product using that truck, all the expenses for salaries, all the expenses for fuel. Got it? All the interest on everything, all the costs associated with that truck. They figure out everything over the life of that truck, and they figure out what the risk level is that's appropriate, what they need to earn, which is their weighted average cost of capital. Oh, cool. They're buying an asset, it's a weighted average cost of capital, and they discount that puppy right back down to now, and that's how much they're willing to offer for it. That's how they know what they're giving for the truck. Got it? Oh, isn't that cool? So could you go to work for UPS and do this? Yeah, you can now. Right? You just let yourself do it. You let yourself think about it, right? Do I care what Ford wants for the truck? Not particularly. Unless it's less than I think it's worth, and I'll take it. What do you think the odds are of Ford not knowing how much UPS is willing to pay for a truck? They calculated it too, right? They know how much they're going to get for that truck, and they designed the truck to fit UPS and everybody else's pricing structure. Go out online and you can do it now. You can price different types of Ford trucks. I was doing pickup trucks. My son-in-law's going to get one, right? My wife was thinking about me driving a trailer around. Thank goodness that's gone. Hey, I saved $10,000 yesterday. She decided no $45,000 car, now it's a $35,000 car. I feel like I won the lottery. Don't you think? It was pretty funny today. They sent me a little notice that my paycheck got deposited. They do that every month, right? Because it's on direct deposit. So I forwarded it to her and it says, good news, they paid us. You know, and she emailed me back and said, that's good, I already spent it. Yeah, anyway, it's our relationship. It's fine. So yeah, it's only a $35,000 car. I feel really good about that. Yeah. Okay, anyway. That's fine. So, everybody got the idea on this thing? You could do this, couldn't you? You could value these things. Oh, I was going to tell you, you could go look up what they want for trucks. I couldn't believe it. You buy a four-door F-250 pickup truck loaded with everything, it's about, I don't know, 40,000 or something. But then if you go up to the 350, they cost less. Who would buy a 350? Well, UPS might. Other delivery companies might. Companies would. They can't price them as high as they would for us crazy consumers, right? Or it won't meet the need, right? It doesn't meet the cost structure. So, you know, of course they're not as fancy. You don't have all the bells and whistles on them. They're just basic vehicles with a massive engine and a massive suspension, right? So they carry stuff. So anyway, business, you guys, just business. I don't really want you guys to be accountants. I want you to be business people, right? I don't know what an accountant is. Let's get rid of that. Okay. So let's try something else. This is kind of a cool thing. And they show you examples of it. You can look at it, you can crank through it. Similar to my example even. Over on the fair value option on page 365. This is kind of interesting. And they just talk about it, don't say much. It's kind of cool. There's a big move to using fair value, was before the stock market cut in half. On available sales securities, trading securities, sales short term, long term. We use market value, remember that from principles. We'll do it again in 212. But remember, we did that. And the gains and losses on trading securities, where do they hit? Income statement. On available for sale, where do they hit? Short term, long term. Other comprehensive income, remember that stuff vaguely? I mentioned it a couple times in here. Okay, anyway, you'll look at it again. But this is the fair value option on notes receivable. So what happens is we could adjust to its fair market value, right? Calculate it. Interest rates change out in the marketplace. The value of the notes changes, doesn't it? Right, guys? Because your note is stable. It doesn't change, right? It's printed on the note. And when interest rates change in the marketplace, what happens? You have a gain or a loss. Whether it's a receivable or payable, you still have either a gain or a loss, depending on which, well, obviously one has a gain, one has a loss, right? As interest rates change, just like with bonds, okay? So you can calculate these gains and losses if you want. Now here's the deal. What you do is you adjust the asset, right? In this case, no receivable to market value. What happens here is you have an unrealized gain or loss. Why is it an unrealized gain or loss? Unrealized, what does that mean? Realized versus unrealized, what does it mean? No cash. No cash is unrealized. You didn't sell it, right? You didn't pay it off. There's no cash, right? There's no cash transaction, no cash change hands. So it's unrealized. What does recognized mean? You recorded the gain or loss. So is an unrealized loss going to be recognized in the income statement? Yes. If you adopt the fair value option. And here's the way it works. As soon as you have the transaction where you receive the financial instrument, the note, you make a determination of whether you're going to use fair value or not. Historical cost, basically, otherwise, right? If you use fair value, you cannot switch back. That might be a question in the CPA exam, or my exam. Wouldn't that be a nice, easy one to get? Once you adopt fair value, you can't switch back. But it's your option whether or not you adopt fair value. So if you want to show your assets at fair value, your negotiable securities at fair value, you can. Got it? Your notes, negotiable notes. Okay, at fair value, you can do it. That sound good? But if you adopt that, you can't switch back. That's all. Okay, so they show you an example, the journal entry there at the bottom, towards the bottom of 365. It's no big deal. Okay, now, how do we get money out of our receivables? The best way to get money out of your receivables is to have them pay you. What do you think of that? Now, your accounts receivable or notes receivable, what's the best way to get the money out? Wait and get paid. But what if you need the money right now? Well, you have some options, right? You have some options. Can you envision a situation where you sell things to people on account, you have accounts receivable, you sell an open account, and they haven't paid you yet, and you run out of cash? And I give them 30 days to pay. My business is expanding fast, right? And I have more and more accounts receivable, and I'm waiting to get paid. Some people are slow. Got the idea? Economy slows down, maybe, and they're even slower. Okay, so what happens? I run out of cash. What can I do? What is the cheapest way to get some money out of your receivables other than waiting to get the money? What they suggest in this chapter?
Borrow against?
I could borrow against my receivables. I could use them as collateral for my debt. This is extremely common. You'll see accounts receivable and notes payable, and the notes payable will say collateral for the debt is the accounts receivable and maybe the inventory too, right? That's how we finance our notes payable, our current notes payable with our receivables. That's why we borrowed the money, is because we're waiting for our customer to pay us. Make sense? So it's logical the bank would want to take them as collateral, okay? And we can either assign those receivables or not. So let's do it both ways. And with borrowing, the nice thing about it is there's not going to be any fee to set up the borrowing. They're just going to charge us interest. Does that sound fine? Okay? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. So what do? We'll do it both ways. Let's do it with assignment and without. And all assignment means is they don't really fully trust us to pay them when we collect the money. If it's just a note payable, I can pay them with any cash I want when it becomes due. Does that make sense? If it's a assignment, when I collect a particular receivable, I now owe it to the bank and I'll send it directly to them. Does that make sense? There's another type of assignment. I might actually have the bank collect the money themselves, so my customers pay the bank. The bank applies it to my loan, and anything that is collected over the amount that I owe them, they'll send to me. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's say I have $500,000 of accounts receivable. And the bank loans me, I'm going to have a note payable. They loan me $400,000, and they're going to charge me 10% interest. Okay? Let's not make it 10. I have a really good reason for this. Let's make it 12. You know why I want to do 12? Because I want to make it monthly. Okay? So I'm going to pay them every month. Right? So I'm borrowing, and as soon as I collect them, I'm going to pay them off. Does that make sense? This is a 1 month deal. Okay? Of course, I'll probably do it again the next month, and again with the next month. And by the way, will the bank want to do this revolving type thing with me? If I always pay? Oh yeah, and they're getting 12% interest. They're going to be thrilled to do it with me continuously. Always pay right away? You know, so fine, it's okay. All right, so my customers owe me $500. I go to the bank and I say, I'd like to borrow $400,000 on a note pay. Okay? And the bank says, sure. You have good credit, I'll do it. Okay? What's going to happen to me and what's going to happen to the bank? Okay? Let's do the company. And let's do the bank. Let's put it all on one side here. Let's do the company. That's Y. And bank. What happens to me? I get I borrowed money, debit cash, $400,000. That's simple. Credit, notes payable. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in my notes of my financial statement, say the collateral for that $400,000 debt is my accounts receivable. How much is my collateral? The whole $500,000. Can I borrow? They're going to take it all. Can I borrow against that $500,000 anymore? No. So is it important to put in your notes of the financial statements that you used it as collateral? Sure, because in a financial statement, user knows you can't go borrow against them again. Do you ever want to give up your notes, your accounts receivable as collateral if you don't have to? Of course not. If they loaned to me on open, on my signature, I'd take it instead of have it tied up. I do that on my house too if the mortgage company would do it, the bank. If they didn't have to have house with collateral for that $170,000 loan my wife and I have, I just have it on my signature. I wouldn't care. I always joke with them about that when I buy things like that. You mean you want me to sign a contract? Why don't you just trust me? Yeah. And your interest rate is 3%. I think your rate would be 15. I'll trust you. You know, because they know I have the money, right? In retirement accounts. So yeah, sure, I'm going to do that. Right? Why would they want so much more interest if they don't have any collateral? They got more risk. They wouldn't really want that much more. I could probably negotiate 7, but why would I do that? I don't care if they hold title of the house. I get to live in it. It's fine. Same with cars and so on, right? What would the bank do? Come on, you guys. Devil what? Yeah, they probably have a note receivable, not account. Really? I have a note payable and they have an account receivable? Really? Okay, anyway, 400,000. Nobody says anything in here. Keith jumps all over him. Okay, second time somebody said something, I still jumped on them. Okay, what do you credit? Everybody, yeah, cash, come on. You know, there's comfort in numbers, you'd all say it. Okay, so then what happens? Let's say during the month. This is all during 1 month, right? During the month, I collect, I don't know, $480,000. What am I going to do as I collect the money?
Pay it back?
Well, first I'm going to collect it, so let's collect it.
Okay. You,
Debit cash, I said 480, didn't I? So I'd have 20,000 left of my accounts receivable. This is just nothing, guys. Credit what? Account receivable, absolutely. What's the bank going to do, of course?
They're gonna debit cash?
No, they're not. I didn't give it to them yet. So what are they going to do so far? Because I debited cash and credit accounts receivable. They're not going to do anything, right? They're going to be real happy when I do what now?
Pay 'em.
Pay them. So now I'm at the end of the month. How much am I going to pay them? 400 plus interest. I'm going to debit notes payable. And you might make progress payments against it, right? If you only collected 200, you'd give them 200 plus interest. Got the idea? Okay, whatever it is. Okay, so this is going to be 400. Even though I collected 480, of course, I get to keep the difference. Okay, so this is going to be 400,000, right? Okay, get rid of the note payable. How much cash am I going to give? Well, that's going to be dependent on what? Your interest. Yeah, excellent. Interest what, guys? Expense. Okay, how much interest expense? It's 12% a year. See why I changed it from 10. That's 1% a month, isn't it? 1 month went by. Let's say it's exactly a month. Exactly 30 days. What do you want to do? How much interest is there on 400,000? 1% for 1 month. 4,000. So how much cash am I going to give them? 4,400 and 4,000 of that, or 400,000. 404,000. Okay, yeah, 400,000 plus 4,000 interest. You guys could all do this, couldn't you? It's no big deal. What would the bank do? Yes, how much? Okay, good. Credit what? Okay. And interest revenue? Put that out there. How much? And we're happy campers. Okay? What would change if I assign? Okay, well first, what you could do, if you want to show in your financial statements that your receivables are assigned, yes sir?
I thought the interest was 12%. The notes paid.
That's for a year. 1 month went by,
Okay.
right?
But, yeah.
That's why I made it 12%. Say this is January 1st, right? January 1st. This happens during January. A bunch of cash receipts. This is January 31st. I make my payment. January 31st. I said it, but I didn't write it down. That make sense? Okay, so it's 1% because it's just 1 month. Okay, so you might do 2 months or whatever, you know, calculate what the interest is. Okay, now what if I wanted to assign these? And what assign means is I can't use the money, I can't give the cash to anybody else when I receive it. Does that make sense? If it's not assigned, I could use this cash to do something else, and then whenever it's due, I just pay the note, right? With whatever cash I've got, borrow more money or whatever. What I would do is as soon as I borrowed the money, I would show the receivables as assigned accounts receivable. So what would be my journal entry? You'd put it right in here. What would be my journal entry at the date I assigned them? This is real simple. It's assigned accounts receivable. So now instead of regular accounts receivable, I have assigned accounts receivable. Make sense? And it'd be for how much? 500,000 because I assigned the whole 500,000. Make sense? I assigned the whole thing to them. So I'm communicating that in my statements. And credit regular accounts receivable for the $500,000. Make sense? But then when they pay me, I don't have the regular accounts receivable anymore. So I debit cash and I credit what, everybody? What do you think you'd have to credit? Now that you put them into assigned accounts receivable, what do you have to credit? The assigned accounts receivable. It's real simple. People think this is difficult, but it's just not, right? So I moved them from regular receivables to assigned receivables, and then when I collect them, I take that out of assigned receivables, huh? But now what's the problem I've got after I paid it off? What would I also have to do at January 31st? I need one more entry now. What's my balance of assigned accounts receivable? There's still 20 left in there. Do they need to be assigned anymore if I paid off the debt? No. So how would I get rid of a balance in assigned accounts receivable? Credit. Make sense? So I'll get my 20 out of there that's left, so be sure and take it out of there, right? And what do I put them back into, seeing as they're no longer assigned? Accounts receivable. And why would I bother with that? Because I want to reflect my balance sheet, right? Anytime I do a balance sheet, what's assigned receivable and what's not. So I assign them over. How about if the bank collects it for us? Let's make it one step more. What if the bank collects it for us? What's that going to look like?
They get the money first and give us.
Yeah, so I'm still going to assign them, right? But they're going to collect it instead of me. That's interesting, isn't it? So what would I do? On January 1st, what would it be? On my books, company, and on the bank. If you just let yourself think about these things, you can figure them out, right? Really remembering what they say they did, you know, if they signed them or not. So this is assigned, and the bank is going to collect it. So what's the first entry going to be? Don't get too fancy with that one. It's exactly the same. How's that going to look, gang? Debit. Company gets the cash, $400,000. They have a note what? Yeah, so this is no big deal. What is the bank going to do? No receivable. And cash. Okay. What's really nice is I've got you guys thinking now. It didn't mean we started, you weren't. I've got you guys thinking now. You're really tired and you're thinking. Good for you. That's what I want when you go to work. Busy season, you're dead tired. Keep thinking, keep thinking. If you get to the point where you can't think anymore, what should you do? Go home. Stop billing your client. Get a little sleep, and then go back. Do it again. Right? Really? That's what we do. At a certain point, diminishing returns, right? You're sitting there and you put in 60 hours during the week. You know, we're not getting anywhere. Everybody will look at each other and say, go sleep for 5 hours and come back. You're right up against the deadline. You do it, right? Awful. Yeah, anyway. It's not always like that, just in crunch time, right? In crunch situations. Do what you got to do. So it's good you can think when you're tired, right? Do something when you're tired. Do that, develop that skill. Yes, it's a skill. That endurance, okay? Endurance is important. Okay, so then what happens? We're going to sign them, right? Because the bank's going to be collecting them. So probably we would do what? Because we're going to disclose in the notes of the financial statement they're assigned, aren't we? What's it going to be? Debit that assigned accounts receivable, just like over here. And by the way, why does the bank want $500,000 assigned, do you suppose? Credit account. What's that? It's for collateral for the $400,000 debt, but why do they want more than the 400? But they want to make sure they cover the interest. That's true. And what else? Bad debts, sales returns, allowances, anything, right? They want to make sure they got enough to cover it, that they're going to collect at least the 400,000 plus interest, right? So they always take more. Okay? What's the bank going to do with that? They're still not their receivables, are they? So they won't do anything, right? They won't do anything at all. Okay? But then what happens when we're collecting? This collecting them right here, this 480 collected, what's going to happen? Who collects it? The bank will debit cash 480. And what are they going to do? Credit the note receivable. But they're still going to charge us interest on the whole thing. Okay. And we do nothing. We don't get the cash. What's going to happen at January 31st? So that all happened during the month, right, guys? This happened throughout January. And now they're settling up at the end of the month. All right? January 31st. The bank first, they're going to send us money, aren't they? So they're going to credit cash, aren't they? What are they going to debit? Oh, I went note receivable 480, didn't I? Yeah. That was too much. You guys agree with that? Yeah. Anybody notice that? Good if you did. Should have said something. 400 is the max. What's the other 80? What's that? They owe it to us, right? Payable to the company, whoever the company is. That make sense? Something like that, okay? Because they're going to pay us the 80 less the interest, right? All right, so then what are they going to do? They're going to pay out cash, right? And they're going to have, that's going to be a credit. What are they going to debit? What won't they have anymore when they pay us the excess cash? They collected 80 more than we owed them, right? So the payable to the company is going to go away. That's true. How much? The whole 80, right? Now they're done with the deal. What else are they going to have, though? They're not sending us the whole 80, are they? Something less. Interest. They're still going to have that interest revenue, aren't they? It's going to be interest revenue of how much? 4,000? How much cash are they sending us? 76. Everything works perfect, right? They still got their 404 and we still got our 76 extra, right? Okay, we're good. All right. And we still have 20 receivables. All right, now we need a journal entry. Let's do our journal entry at January 31st. What will it be? The bank is sending us some cash, aren't they? How much?
6.
That's an interesting one, isn't it? What else do we have to do? It's interesting, isn't it? What do we need to get rid of? Note payable needs to go away. Good. How much is it? 400. I'm going to clobber that guy. What else do we need? We paid them the what? Yeah. That's a debit, isn't it? Because it's expense. The world I live in, it is. Okay. That's 480. True. What else do you need to do? Assigned accounts receivable. How much is that? Could be the 480, but I don't want to just do the 480. I want to do the whole 500. I agree with you, right? So far I got 480 there. 76 and 4 and 400, right?
Yeah.
But I want to do the whole 500, don't you guys? And where do we want to put the other 20 of accounts receivable? Oh, it's no longer assigned. It's now regular accounts receivable. So we're going to put them into accounts receivable just like we did over here. See, it doesn't matter. You can get there, can't you? And that looks like, wow, what a horrible journal entry. Imagine being able to pull that off in the CPA exam if they give you some stupid thing like that. It's easy, right? Here's what happened, account for it, right? And what they want you to be able to do is figure out what happened, what got exchanged, and what are the debits and credits associated with that. Make sense? That's what your boss is going to want to do when you're working. How do we record this? This is weird. How do we record this thing? What'd you get? What'd you give up? That's all, okay? Everybody good? That's the easy stuff. Let's start doing some hard stuff. Oh well. Life happens. Okay, so that got us through, I guess, basically page 367. All right. And then the really fun stuff. Now, by the way, what interest rate am I paying there? 12% annual, right? Just straight 12%. Let's look what happens when you start factoring. What is, and by the way, did I sell my receivables here? No, I use them as collateral for debt, right? Big difference. Assignment is using them as collateral for debt. Got it? And certainly just collateral, straight collateral, is using them as collateral for debt. Okay? So what else is there? I might not be even a good enough credit risk to borrow against my receivables. You'd have to be a decent credit risk to do that. So what could you do? You could actually sell your receivables to a factor. Typically won't be a bank, although the company might be owned by a bank. It's going to be a finance company, factoring company. And we have lower credit worthiness is why we're doing this. In some industries, they do this a lot. Okay, textile industry is big on this. Okay, what's the deal with factoring? I no longer own the receivable. Now the factor does. I sell them to them. So am I going to have interest expense if I sold it to them? I know the author shows interest expense, but it's ridiculous. There's no such thing as interest expense on an asset you don't own, or a debt you don't have, rather. There's no interest expense, right? What do I have if I sold the asset? A gain or loss on the sale. What does the factor have? Are they going to have interest revenue? No. What they're going to have is revenue from factoring. It's factoring revenue. It's how they earn their revenue. And they'll have all their expenses too, their operating expenses, running the place, right? And they'll also have a lot of bad debts. Don't you suppose? They're taking weak receivables, right? So what they're gonna do is they're gonna heavily discount them, and they're gonna have a reserve, which means they're not gonna give you all the money until they collect. Got the idea? They're gonna be protected, okay? So they're gonna charge you a huge fee, they're gonna charge a high interest rate, and they're gonna keep an amount in reserve in case they don't get paid. Right? This is, you're on the ropes when you start factoring. You need the money real bad. You're not going to make your payroll. Nobody will loan you any money, and you go sell your receivables to a factory. Don't set up your business intending to do this, right? This is last resort, okay? And we'll look at what the interest rates might be here. Okay, so they give you some nice examples.
Maybe we'll use their example on page 368. They have press textiles and commercial factors. And this one is a sale without recourse, and then they're going to have a sale with recourse on the next page, I think. Yeah. Okay, so what's the difference? Without recourse and with recourse, you think? Without recourse, what does recourse mean?
Take action.
You can take action. Recourse is taking action. With recourse, you can take action. What's without recourse, you can't take action. See? Okay. So what do we mean? I sold them to somebody, sold them to the factory. With recourse, what can they do?
Come back on.
Come back and get me. Without recourse, what does it mean? They can't. When can they come back and get me? When my customer does not pay the receivable to them. This is now their receivable, they're collecting it, right? I would not collect it and send it to them, right? That'd never be the arrangement. They don't trust me, right? I'm bad credit risk. Okay, so what's going to happen is they're going to collect it. It's now their receivable. So we notify all my customers to pay them, just like with the assignment where the bank's collecting it. The same thing. The factory gets the money, right? Okay, which one are they going to charge you more for? Higher fee on or higher interest on? Without recourse, because they're taking more risk. Although they might not really be taking much more risk. If you're not a good credit risk and your customers aren't a good credit risk, they're just taking a lot of risk. That's the idea. But they might drive down how much they're giving you for those receivables so that it still works out okay, right? So you're desperate, right? Maybe your customers are desperate too. This is not a pleasant situation a lot of times. But they show textiles because in the textile business they do this as normal things. It's just built into their pricing structure, right? Okay, so it's not so bad. Anyway, what do they have on this thing? The without recourse shows what? We're going to do that first, without recourse. This is one less entry than that. What happened? This is a 500,000 accounts receivable these guys have, and they're selling all 500,000. Could be notes or accounts receivable, either one. And they're going to get cash out of them. And they're done, right? It's without recourse. So let's do both the textile side and the commercial factor side. So we got the factor and the company, okay? So here we go. These aren't too bad until get into different payment patterns and it goes crazy. Company and the factor, okay? Does everybody understand what's going on? The company's selling their receivables and the factor is buying them, right? But it's a way a company gets money out of their receivables. They are not borrowing money, they're selling their receivables, right? But it feels just like you borrowed money, you just don't have to pay it back, right? But you gave up your receivables, you're never going to collect the cash for receivables. Everybody good? This makes sense. You see the difference between unsecured debt, no collateral, secured debt with collateral, assignment on the debt, right, where you directly assign those receivables to them, right? And now we're going into factoring, okay? So this is factor without recourse, right? Which means you're done. You need no recourse liabilities, all that amounts to, okay? Without recourse. Okay, so let's use their example. It's $500,000 of receivables, right? So I got $500,000. And what are they charging me? Go ahead and take a look at that example. What do they say? The paragraph right above illustration 718.
%3 finance charge and maintaining 5% receivables.
Okay, So they want 3%. And we'd have to assume how long it's gonna take them to collect the money, right? Okay, who knows? They're hoping not too long, right? 30-day terms maybe or something. So they're charging you a 3% finance fee to wait for 30 days to collect the receivables, if they collect them. What interest rate would that be for a year? 3% for 30 days, you guys. We just hit 36% interest. Got the idea? Although they're gonna have to wait longer than that probably. So what if they wait on average 60 days? Still 18% interest. Got the idea? But we don't call it interest, but is it really interest? Yeah, kinda, right? So your loss is what it is. Okay, so 500,000, so times 3% is their finance charge. So they are gonna have revenue, we are going to have loss on these receivables, right? Of how much? 15 grand. You're gonna take 15,000 away, so it's gonna be the 500 less 15. And then what else is there? They are going to keep a what? Reserve. We're still gonna have a reserve here. Okay, it'll be bigger reserve with the recourse. Or, I'm sorry, there'll be a recourse liability with the recourse. Here, we're just gonna have the reserve. 500,000 times what? 5%? How much is that? 25, right? So their example's fine. It could be any numbers, of course. It could be any percentages. The worse your receivables are, the higher both of those percentages are gonna be, right? The better your receivables are, the lower. Make sense? Okay? So, how big a credit risk are you and how big a credit risk are your customers? Both. Okay? So what do we do with this thing? They're gonna give us what? 500,000 receivable less 40 grand? Okay? So what would the first entry be? What do they show there? We debit cash because they're sending it to us. How much are they gonna give us? 460. And we're gonna credit accounts receivable because we sold them. Credit the receivable if you don't have it anymore. Whoops, 500,000. So from the whole 500, right? And then what do you want to debit, guys? Loss on factory. It'll never be a gain, trust me. I'm not gonna give you more than the face amount. Loss on factory, how much is that? Is it the whole 40? No, how much?
They broke it up.
Says due for the factory.
Only the 15, because they are going to pay us, right? This is the fee, right? Which will be our loss, assuming they get paid enough, right? What's this gonna be? This is a due, this is a reserve, right? Due from factor. So they're gonna pay me that, excuse me. They're gonna pay me that later if they collect it, okay? Due from factor, okay? That's a reserve. They're holding it back, right? Because if they don't collect everything, they're never gonna give it to you. Got it? So, what do we do with that? 25,000, what do they do with it? Due from factor. Is making sense? Just on the surface of it? Okay, what would happen on the other side? What would happen to the factor? I bet they give up the cash, and I bet they get the account receivable. What do you think? They get the account receivable for $500,000, okay? And they no longer have the cash of 460. And what did they record? What did they show? Yeah, due to company, right? Or payable to company. And that's going to be for 25,000. So, you know, we have a receivable, they have a payable, that's all it is, right? Due to company, due from factor, okay? All right, so then what's the other 15 going to be for them? They call it interest, didn't they? Oh, they didn't loan us money, I don't like interest there. What do you think it might be? Factor revenue. I like factoring revenue. If you call it interest, I'll give it to you, but I don't think it's interest. They don't loan anybody any money. So they call it factoring revenue, really. It's a reflection of what's been there for years. So, oh well. Everybody got the idea, though? All right. Then let's do if they pay me. And if they pay me different amounts. Ah.
So what do you got paid in their little example? What did they get paid? Net proceeds computation. Well, they don't show any amounts being paid, do they? Oh, geez, well, we need to do that. I thought they did. Is there in a later section somewhere? Maybe it's just in progress. Now let's do it here.
Okay, let's say they get the whole amount. So let's say this is scenario A, and we'll do a number of them, okay? Let's do in scenario A, the factor gets paid 100%. 100%, okay? Let's say they get paid 100% of it. What will the factor do?
Cash or no, spend cash.
Debit cash, whole 500,000, and credit what? Accounts receivable, the whole 500,000. Would you guys agree with that? Now what else do they need to do?
Debit, due customer.
Yeah, they gotta get due from their customer, gone. Due to company, whatever the company's name is. Textile company there, wasn't it? For how much? 25 grand. And credit what? Cash. Sure, they'd send them the cash, wouldn't they? What will the company do, of course? Debit cash, good. For how much? 25 grand? Credit what? Get rid of the due from factor, right? This is pretty straightforward, isn't it? All right, gang, let's make life a little more difficult. This is without recourse, right? Let's say they collect in B, instead of collecting 100% of it, let's say they collect 480,000. Yeah, they collect $480,000. This was they collected 500, right? So whatever percent that is, they collect. Okay? B here is the same thing. Okay? Give that a shot. What do they do?
Debit cash already.
And they're giving up. Let's assume they're giving up. Period of the contract is expired. They're giving up. Without recourse. Keep going. I like that. If they're giving up on the receivables, what do you want to credit accounts receivable for? Not 480. They're giving up. The whole 500. 480 for the ones they collect, and the other 20 they're giving up on. Okay? What else would you do? Do two. Got to get rid of this. Got to get rid of this. Due to company. How much? Whoops. It's going to be a credit. No, it's going to be a debit. I'm sorry. It's a debit. I'm getting rid of the due to company. It's the same due to company up there, right?
But are you getting rid of it?
Getting rid of this one. What's that?
Are you getting rid of all of it?
Huh? I don't owe him anything. Do you think I owe him anything?
But
If I only collected 480?
they're going for it, yeah, but
I don't owe him 25 anyway, and I'm going to satisfy the 25 by paying him how much? 5. I only owe him 5.
yeah.
I had 25 held back. I collected all but 5 of it, right? Or all the 20,
Yeah.
right? So they're on the hook for the first 25 is the point. So even without recourse, you have recourse, don't you? By the extent of your reserve. So this would be credit cash for 5, wouldn't it? Okay, and then what would it be over here? Debit cash for 5. Keep going for me. That's that cash coming in, right? Keep going.
Due from factor,
Okay, due from factor, how much do you want to take out of that? Yeah, you have the whole 25 in there, very good. This is supposed to be harder than the earlier stuff we did. You guys just woke up. Okay, and then what?
Like loss.
Yes! It's additional loss. Fantastic. Did you read about that or just get it? Just makes sense. Oh, that's scary. Okay. Because I don't know any of this stuff. I'm making it up as I go, right? It's amazing how often I make it up and it agrees with the author, huh? They just made it up too. Don't worry about it. Sort of, right? It makes sense. You don't have to remember it. You can figure it out. Okay? Loss on what? Factoring, right? Or you can call it bad debts if you want to, right? Additional bad debts. You could have an allowance set up for it, leave your allowance in there, and then go against your allowance, right? I wish you could do it. Okay, let me give you another one and see if you can work this one through. Okay, we collect $460,000. We'll stop for that one. Okay, same thing over here. What do you think on that one? Can you guys do that? Really similar. But remember, this is without recourse. Okay? Without recourse. So what are they protected up to? 475. Anything after that, they got a problem, don't they? They only had a 25 reserve. Right? All of you guys were really deep into this semester, and you're doing fine. Do not lose your confidence. Do not lose your energy. Don't lose your focus. Keep pushing, pushing. We got most of the points left, right? Half the points left. After that test. Oh, wait. Yeah, after that test. Don't we have half the points still? Final and the last test and 2 quizzes. Okay, don't let up, don't let up, don't let up. Okay, keep focused. Give me a bunch of work before I see you again. Every time, okay? Until the semester's over. You look awful tired. Sleep for an hour. Get back to work. No, a little more than that, okay? Yeah, you all look tired. So do I. Maybe I'm just reflecting on you. So what's the deal? What are we going to do? They received how much cash? 460. Did you do that?
yeah,
How much accounts receivable do you want to get rid of? 500,000, don't we? Very good. Okay, what else?
to the company.
Due to company's got to go. Oh, this starts making sense, doesn't it? 485 does not equal 500. What do I need? Loss. They can call it bad debt expense maybe for them, or some sort of a loss. Probably bad debt expense, don't you think? Because they took the receivables and then, you know, they shouldn't have. Hindsight. Bad deal for them. Got it? What would these guys do over here?
Start from a loss of 25.
Yeah, their loss is limited to the 25,000. That is their due from factor. Okay. We've got a few more minutes to do with recourse, huh? It gets even worse, a little bit worse. Okay. So let's try this. Let's go over. That all makes sense, guys? Easy, wasn't it? So I can give you any combination of those? And crack right through them? Maybe. Just let yourself think about it. Dual page on. Okay, here we go.
So
What's that?
I understand the debiting due to customer. Would they make a note anywhere that they retained the money, or is that just self-explanatory with that account? Like if they don't refund, if the
Well, if
factor
they never
doesn't
get,
give
well,
all
you're
the-
showing the loss on your income statement, the
What?
additional loss, and you're showing that the due from is gone.
Yeah.
So you don't have to say anything other than you lost.
It's just understood.
If you show the loss on your income statement, it's pretty obvious. what
Well, and
happened.
even like in the example B, where 5,000 and the 20,
Yeah, I mean, you're still showing some loss, some additional loss, right? To the extent that they didn't pay you, it's back some of it. And if you received all of it back, you don't have to say anything. That's just what the deal was supposed to be. So that's cool, if you got that back. Because the loss you already disclosed was plenty, right? You don't have any additional. Then on C, we had more, and then, yeah, D, we had even more. Yeah, okay. All right, let's try exactly the same thing here. Yes?
Just at the beginning of this example, that 3% is 500,000. Can you tell me what it is?
That's the fee they're charging you to take your receivables. That's how much they're discounting your receivables. They think it's kind of interest, but they're not really loaning you money, so it's not really interest. That's the fee they're charging for their services. So that's also your loss, whatever their fee is, because you sold them the receivables at a discount. That's basically it, right? I discounted it to get them to take it. You can think about it as a discount, right? There's a loss on factoring. That makes sense? Okay. I like loss better than interest. You can see how they would maybe think it's interest too, but they didn't loan you money. But for them, it's kind of like interest, I suppose. Even though they don't have a debt.
Can you call it the cost of receivables?
What's that? Cost of receivables. Cost of getting rid of my receivables. That's what it is. Okay, so let's try the exact same thing. Okay, let's do the company and let's do the factor for each of these. Okay, and let's do exactly the same deal. And what would the original entry look like? So let's do this original entry first. So let's do that one first. Okay, what would it be? What's the first one look like, everybody? This time there would be what? Their example continues, and they say, well, yeah, but in addition to them only giving us 460, we think we might have some more problems. By the way, we do not tell the factor this. We're the company. We don't tell the factor, oh, you're not going to collect all the money, right? You're not only not going to get your 485, but it's going to be worse, right? Okay? See, it's going to be ugly, right? You're going to have trouble here, okay? So what happens? They're not going to collect their 500, so they're not going to get their money. And so we know about it, they don't, so what do? Take a look at that journal entry there at the bottom of page 369. They estimated there's going to be another 6,000 they're never going to see. Got it? That's their estimate of how much they're not going to collect. That's how much you're going to be less than what? Less than the 475, right? That's how much you're going to be short, okay? Really. But they show it as less than the 485 because the due from factor they're already going to be covered. So they think they're only going to collect 479 total, right? So they're going to be short of what they need to break even on this deal. But what are they going to do in that situation? It's with recourse, they're going to come after us for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to set ourselves up with a recourse liability because we expect to have to give them 6 more. We're not going to give it to them until they can't collect our receivables. If they collect them, we're good. If they can't collect them, we're going to have to give them another 6. Make sense? So my loss is no longer the 15. What's my loss now? 15 plus the 6. You see that, everybody? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make exactly the same journal entry, but I'm going to add this recourse liability. And I'm going to increase my loss by the recourse liability. So here's what happens. It's still the cash of 460, so this isn't too bad. Still cash of 460,000, okay? It's still going to be due from the factor, right? For 25, was it? That they held back. Okay, it's still going to be accounts receivable or sold off of 500. Everybody with me? But now I'm going to have a recourse liability, we call it. Recourse liability. And that recourse liability is, I think they're going to come back and get me for 6, or whatever you estimate it is, right? I know the receivables better than they do. And I think we're in trouble for 6, okay? All right, which is why they really want to have with recourse probably, and so they can come after us. Okay, what's my loss going to be? What was my loss already? 15, which is the fee they charged me, right, guys? What is it now? 15 plus 6. That's all it is. So this is not going to be a big deal. Loss on factoring. It's not a big deal. Just add the recourse liability to the loss and you're there. Okay? Converting them is not very bad, is it? Everybody see it? I added the recourse liability and I made my loss bigger by the recourse liability. On the other side of the deal, what's going to happen? Nothing. They don't know about the 6,000. It's the same. So I'm going to have exactly the same entry as this one. They don't know about it. The factor doesn't know. Got it? Everybody good? Except now they have recourse. So if they collect all of it, what would you do? In A, what would you do if they collected all of it? Let's collect all of it real quick. What would they debit cash for? 500,000. True, guys? Credit accounts receivable. 500,000, right? Exactly the same, in other words. Then what are they going to do? I don't know why I'm writing it down. It's exactly the same. Due to company. How much? 25. Cash, 25. So nothing changed there. Everybody see that? Nothing changed on A there. But what's going to happen for this one? Exactly the same. What's going to, whoops, this side. Okay? What's going to change over here? I'm still going to get cash at 25. I'm going to still have due from factor for 25. Don't stop. What else do I have in my books? Recourse liability. Excellent. I got to get rid of the recourse liability. So I would debit recourse liability. I got lucky, right? I collected more. They collected more than I thought by 6, and I have to credit something for 6. What would it be? I made my loss 21, and it ended up only being what? The 15, right? Get rid of part of your loss. Loss on factoring goes down. So now my loss on factoring is 21 less 6, it's the 15, because they collected all of it, right? Everybody good? Okay, let's say we have B then. B was how much? 480? Let's collect 480. What are they going to do? They're going to do exactly the same thing. I'm not going to write it again. It's same, isn't it? Why is it the same? Debit cash 480, debit due to company 25, credit accounts receivable 500, credit cash 5, right? What are we going to do now? Debit cash 5, right? Debit the recourse liability for 6, right? Because I set it up now. I already recognize 21 a loss, right? Okay. Credit the due from factor. How much? 25? Wait a minute, I didn't get there. What happened to me? We had a loss here at 20, didn't we? My loss isn't going to be that big this time because I already recognized 6 of it, right? In the recourse liability, but how much loss do I have? 25 less 11 is how much? 14. So where did I get 14, everybody? It was the 20 I would have had, right? If I hadn't had the recourse, less the 6 recourse liability is 14. My total loss is the same. Over here I had what kind of a loss when I factored? 15, right? And then I added how many in part B? 20, so it's 35. What do I have over here? 21 at the time I factored, plus another 14, it's still 35, isn't it? Okay, one more, and I'll let you out of here. God, I ran over when I'm sick. I don't believe it. Okay, C. And you guys are tired? Get sort of slow. Okay, what do you want to do with this one? Cash, how much? You said 460, right, guys? Cash is 460. Accounts receivable, how much? 500. What else do we need to get rid of? Due to company, gotta go? How much? 25. Okay, what else do we have? This is going to be a little different. We had bad debt expense, didn't we, for 15? I need something else for 15. What do you want it to be now? I'm not taking the responsibility. This is with recourse, right, guys? If it's with recourse, who owes me the money? The company. So I get rid of due to the company and I record a due from the company. Oh. So I used to owe them 25, now they owe me 15. Got it? That's the 40 shortfall. I collected 460 out of the 500. That makes sense? So I got rid of the due to the company, and I now have a due from the company. Okay, let's do the company side. How much cash are they going to get? None, right? They don't get any cash. What else is going to happen to them?
You have a loss on the factor.
They're going to have loss on factory. What else are they going to have? Get rid of. Due from factor going to go away? Yeah. How much is that? Still 25, right? You're going to have to get rid of their 25,000 due from. And what are they going to now have? Due to. How much is the due to going to be? It's a liability. It's 15. I got the 25 over here and the 15, don't I? Good, that's 40. We're not done yet. What else is on my books? I put that recourse liability on there, gang. I put that recourse liability on there. You got to get rid of it, don't you? So do you want to debit recourse liability? Sure. That's going to help me a little bit, isn't it? Not much. Recourse liability is how much? Did I have 6? What's the loss going to be? 40 less 6 is how much? 34. And the reason it's not the whole 40 is what? I already recognized the 6 earlier. Got it? See you guys. Thanks for hanging in there. Get some sleep. Then get to work. These tests really are a good exercise. Honestly, you'll be so glad you're taking the CPA exam. That you endured me and Deck and Trader awful things today. I've got all the tests. I've got a couple more. Oh yeah, but you can. Did I do one with no interest expense at all?
Yeah.
Did they have any debt?
We don't know.
There was a little debt, but no interest expense.
It said other expenses.
Did you look at the notes to the financial statement?
Yeah, and it's alright, but some like. Yeah.
So,
That's probably interest expense, it's just buried.
said they very little.
I read the note. Under other expenses.
And then you read the note for other.
It normally says interest expense, it just said other, like other revenue, so I just use that.
Nothing financial.
Really?
I just
I
said
thought I
nothing.
looked at that.
For whack, I just had.
Boy, that's really neat.
For whack, I just had.
Yeah, I know, what, debt? Zero or something?
I guess I didn't, I guess I didn't copy this. That's something. Yeah. Well, I hope I didn't screw it up. So what'd you do for interest? So they had none?
It said they would either use a prime rate, that's what you did, 3.5.
That was in the note, yeah.
In the notes,
That's what it said for the interest, it said they have very little varying.
they pay the prime rate, there's very little
Yeah,
debt.
and
right?
if they do, then they pick either between the prime rate or these.
Yeah. What was your debt to equity structure? How much debt and how much equity?
Like 5%.
Yeah, 5 and
Yeah.
5.
So your cap in and your whack are almost the same number.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll happen if the company does that.
Like,
So it won't mess it up anyway, no matter which number you use profit.
and the,
It made you think a while though, didn't it?
Yeah.
That's annoying.
and the stock price.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even, oh, great, every bit I have a different value now, that'll be good.
No.
See you later, thanks.
Yeah, very Wednesday, yeah.